All right, everyone. I wanted to start off today talking about blanket terms. Basically, it is nothing more than linguistic propaganda. When you use a term and you, well, misuse the term and apply it to blanket statements, the tendency is that it's being done like that for a reason. For example, let's give a couple of examples. Racism. Racism explains everything from outright hatred for another group of people, somebody who has a different skin color than you, maybe a different ethnicity or something like that, all the way down to so-called microaggressions, a subjugate term, by the way, in which you're simply like, hey, I wouldn't want to date a person from, this particular group because I'm not interested in that. Ultimately, your individuality is being deliberately destroyed in that process. So you could say, for example, let's say you're black. You don't want to date someone who's white. You want to have somebody who's black to be your consort. You want to have a black boyfriend, a black girlfriend. There is nothing wrong with this. That's just your choice. It's your individual prerogative. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But it would still fall under the blanket of, well, if it was applied at all, which it tends not to be, it would be applied under the blanket of racism. Let's look at anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism does not involve, generally speaking, somebody who simply hates Jews. For example, I've been labeled an anti-Semite. I've been labeled an anti-Semite for criticizing the Israeli government. I have no problem with Jews whatsoever. I do not care. It means absolutely nothing to me. Islamophobia, same thing. You can be averse to Islam without being phobic towards people who practice Islam. That would be the same as saying Christophobia. Oh, you're Christophobic because you decided that you disagreed with the tenets of the Catholic Church or something like that. These blanket terms generally mean no sense. They make no sense, and they are applied broadly with broad strokes, generally by the empowered classes of society. Really, it's more civic than anything else. And people, they can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. They believe that it's some sort of spiritual war or something like that. In reality, it's mostly a civic construct. It's mostly politicians and other groups of empowered people trying to carve people off from one another. That's really what's happening. So, when you say, for example, anti-Semitism, well, what kind of anti-Semitism are you talking about? Are you talking about someone who just literally punched a Jew for being a Jew? That's pretty anti-Semitic. Or bombed a synagogue or something like that. Are you talking about someone who simply said they didn't like Judaism? That's not anti-Semitism. All they're saying is they disagree with the religion. Are you saying somebody said, and then there was literally a congressional bill earlier, actually with a rider in it that was redefining anti-Semitism to say, well, the Jews killed Jesus as protected speech. No shit, Sherlock. I found that very, very funny. We've gone through multiple stages of this. We went through the Islamophobia scare about 10 years ago and people were saying basically any criticism of Muhammad, you had the Garland shooting and so forth. Any criticism of Islam is phobic and wrong because these people, and this is the interesting part, and nobody seems to have noticed it. The only reason why it was considered wrong is these people are outsiders. They're not part of our culture. Oh, so, Muslims, they're not part of our culture, so they need to be protected specially. Interesting how the white NIMBYist upper middle class liberals decided that they were an outsider within the culture. They don't really fit in. They don't really belong, so they have to have special protections. Meanwhile, Jews, they get thrown under the bus, I suppose. It's a big problem. Muslims, Jews, and so forth, anything that is considered exotic, outside, foreign, all of these things have to be protected because they are special and they are precious. If it's part of the interior culture, the one that's been generally incepted, which is white Christian America, generally speaking, and to an extent some diaspora beyond that on various levels. White pagans or Christian Americans who happen to be black or something like that. They don't need to be protected. No, no, no. They're not special. They're not foreign. They're not ethnics or something like that. There's no reason to protect them. I find this very, very concerning because this is not the way that the United States was meant to be incepted. We were meant to be incepted as a series of states that had come together for a common purpose, and at the federal level, mainly just to field a military, conduct diplomacy, and mint currency, in which people could simply live free. They could be themselves. It doesn't matter whether you're white or black. You look back at like fucking Sesame Street episodes back in the 90s, and you can look at some of the songs that they sang about that, and it's basically like, hey, it's a good idea to be colorblind. Now we're told that it's racist to be colorblind. So in other words, if I don't hate you for the fact that you're black, or suck your cock because you happen to be black, then there's something wrong with me. Well, I don't accept that. Not in a million years. I think that that's retarded, honestly. I think that these people are retards. Anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and other such buzz terms, racism, misogyny, misandry, and so forth. Typically, they are misapplied. There are men that genuinely hate women. There are women that genuinely hate men. There are people that genuinely hate people of other skin colors or other ethnicities or because they have a certain accent and so forth. There are people who hate Jews. There are people who hate Muslims. These people do exist. But the legacy media and the powers that be would have you believe that most people fall under these categories. It's insane. If these people were realistic, if what they were saying was actually true, Adolf Hitler would have won the Second World War, and every white American would want to kill every Jew and gas them. They would believe that we wanted to enslave black people. They would have us believe that black people universally want to rise up and kill whitey and stuff like that. That's not been my experience, not at all. I was in jail with a 99% black population in there. I never had any problems, by the way. I noticed that most of the guards were white, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, I've had a little bit of a different lifetime experience than the average person, let's just say it that way. This is not reality. Criticizing Netanyahu or the state of Israel for bombing civilians is not anti-Semitism. Criticizing Hamas for taking people hostage and ass raping them until they bleed is not Islamophobia. These things are not concordant in any way, shape, or form. No, it's just a condemnation of human violence, of the barbarism, basically, of various regimes. That's what it is. But people don't realize that. They take up this football team mentality, and so they'll say, well, I'm team Gaza, and so therefore the Jews can do no right, and Hamas can do no wrong. Or they'll say, I'm team Israel. The Jews can do no wrong and the Palestinians, they should all burn in the inferno, basically. I find this troubling. I find it troubling that these people are actually allowed to vote because it sounds like their IQ is sub-room temperature, honestly. That's about all. Peace out.